All right, folks, welcome to Wheelchair Tech Friday. We're going to talk about a little bit of low tech today and some ways, things you need to keep track of because that will keep up the health of your wheelchair, whether it's a power wheelchair, whether it's a manual wheelchair, but to keep it healthy for the 5 or 7 years that you have to wait to get a new wheelchair. Things are going to wear down, things are going to get dings, and things are going to get scrapes and bumps. That's just part of the wear and tear of daily use. So whether you're throwing your wheelchair into the back seat, whether you're throwing a wheelchair in the back of a truck, whatever it might be, not exactly a power wheelchair, but a manual wheelchair. But usually the color that I recommend, because it's easier to cover up those dings, is a silver type color manual wheelchair. But some people like color, so it gets scraped and dinged and everything else. But the one thing that I do with my power wheelchair is that if it gets scraped at some point, my wheelchair is black for the most part. So I use a permanent marker, so that's my secret. So if I scrape it somewhere, I color it in, and nobody can see it. So if you really scrape or get some kind of white color on it, whatever you scraped against something, that's what I do. I just take a black permanent marker. So don't tell anybody. So if you have kind of like a silver type color, then I use a silver type permanent marker. And so you can look for pink or whatever color it is of your wheelchair, so you can cover up those scrapes and dings. So it stays nice and presentable. Let's see here. I have a guide. So for dings and scrapes, that's important. Overall, you've heard me say this over and over again, that having your wheelchair checked by a professional once a year is really important. And sometimes they'll charge you, a pretty low price, or they'll let you know if it's a high price and if they can give you a deal on it, or you can pay in installments, or if it's not too expensive, you can afford it, to change tire, or to, if you've saved up money to put in special tires, then you can do that. But they'll look for the important parts and make sure everything is up and up, and that you're not going to incur in an accident. It's important for your brakes to be, in good shape always, for power, especially power wheelchairs, because our chairs weigh a whole lot more. And with manual wheelchairs, you got to check those brakes and make sure they're tight and usable, safe to go. So that's what I do. You are going to crash. You are going to bump into things. That is unavoidable. So, insurance companies, some will cover, some repairs or to purchase a part for your wheelchair if something breaks down within those 5 or 7 years. So you gotta be aware of that and see what your insurance will cover or not cover. Some don't cover anything. They'll just only purchase for you the manual or power wheelchair, and that's it until the 5 or 7 years comes up again. So most common wheelchair problems and wheelchair repair suggestions. So the scratch and dents. So you got to see how serious the dent is, and the scratches. I already told you my secret, how I keep that going and covered. So you got to be careful on that, especially manual wheelchairs. If you really get a bad dent, you got to see how much does it affect the frame. In power wheelchairs, that's a little bit harder unless you've had a really bad accident, but our frames are pretty sturdy. Wheelchair batteries, you've heard me talk about this before. In power wheelchairs, you got to get into a rhythm and make sure that you are plugging it in every night, and that keeps the battery healthy. I would say these batteries will last you the 5 years. I don't think it'll last 7 years, but at least the 5 years for most insurance companies. So you don't want to jump out there and purchase a new battery. So when it's coming up to that problem, then you want to talk to either a professional that sold you the wheelchair or to your therapist and see what they recommend. I think that if your battery is failing, because those batteries are pretty expensive in some models, so you want to make sure that you don't leap out there and purchase a new one, because your wheelchair might be up for an upgrade or to change it out, so then it'll come with new batteries. Wheelchair brakes, in power wheelchairs, we need to kind of continue to feel those brakes and make sure that you're stopping appropriately. If you're not, you really need to contact your company, because our wheelchairs are very heavy, and if those brakes fail, we're in big trouble, especially if you're downhill. For them to check tires and brakes at all times. For manual wheelchairs, a little different. It just depends on the wear and tear on the tires. Check the tires, check the brakes to make sure they're not loose. But if they just need a little bit of tightening, I have a kit that I use, and, it has all the basics. So I have a screwdriver, and I have a wrench if I need to hold on to something, etc. So I have some basic tools that I use if I feel like something's loose. There's another tool that I use, and this one looks a little weird, doesn't it? But this is a magnet if I drop something. So if I drop a screw or whatever, this is going to be my salvation. So I can pick it up, keep on working. One day I dropped a screw. I was adjusting the armrest, and I took out the armrest, and all of a sudden the screw that holds the armrest in place fell inside the bracket of the armrest. I was like, oh no. And so I tried my best to get it out, and I couldn't. So I had to wait like 3 weeks for a tech to come in and get it. I really didn't want the technicians here, they do bathrooms and they do electricity, and they don't do wheelchairs. So they do have magnets though. But the tech came over and he said, oh, just for a screw. So he pulled out his strong magnet and finally got it out and put my armrest back in. So, So it's those goofy things that can happen. So you want to keep a magnet handy if you take out something and the screw goes some weird place that you didn't expect. The upholstery, the upholstery is pretty durable. I use a cushion on mine because I need a little bit more softness. So I don't think the seat's going to wear out anytime soon, but it might wear out between now and your 7 years or now and your 5 years. So if that happens, contact your wheelchair provider, and they'll let you know how much it costs or won't cost anything. I took my wheelchair in twice already, once because I was feeling something strange with my tires. It just felt weird, and I just took it in, and I said, the wheels are not feeling right. And he found out that all my wheels were loose, so when it went through the factory, somehow the wheels didn't get tightened, so it skipped that section. So he had to put it up and tighten all my wheels. He said if you had continued with that looseness, a tire could have come off and you would have had a bad fall. So it's those little things that are really important to check to keep yourself safe. Sometimes, in manual wheelchairs, a little bit easier. you can, I don't have the strength, first of all, to tighten a bolt. And I know I don't, so it was good that the company checked it for me and tightened all my wheels while I was there, and I'm good to go. But it's those little things that, if you skip them, bad things could happen. So, yeah, so the upholstery, the wheels, tires, and casters, in any wheel, if you have a hard wheel, if you have a solid wheel, or you have a wheel that you need to inflate, you still want to check and make sure that the inflatable ones, you want to make sure maybe once a week or every other week, you want to make sure that those wheels are well balanced and well inflated. For the hard wheels, the solid wheels, you want to make sure that they don't crack or they have holes or they start to peel. That is not good for the wheelchair itself because it could throw things off balance, and it's not safe for you either. So you really want to check with your company to see, what kind of wheels could you purchase, or can you bring it in for a check and see what they can do for you. Whether you set up a payment or whether you've saved enough money and you can go in and get it fixed right then and there. I don't have the strength to do that, even though, I could fantastically put on the wheel, but I can't tighten it enough. So you want to be careful with the wheels, especially power wheelchairs. Our wheels, after a while, are going to start peeling, are going to start wearing down, and we can change those. But I would have to have some money saved up to change a wheel or check all the wheels to make sure, especially the casters, because they hit the front, they take the brunt of the front and they take the brunt on the back. So you want to make sure there's no peeling, cracking, or, slits, or, so you want to make sure those wheels are in good shape and tackle it way before things get serious, way, way, way before. So, so don't wait, jump on it before something happens. How to service a wheelchair when wheelchair problems persist. And this is from Brown Ability, and I'll leave their link so you can look at some other parts and little documents they've written up. So how to service a wheelchair, I look over my wheelchair, and I make sure everything is tight and nothing is loose. I check the arms, make sure they haven't slid down. I look at my wheels to make sure there's no, so those things I can do. But there's other serious things that if you feel like something's wrong, that you might not be able to repair yourself, that's when you really need to contact the shop or the company that provided you the wheelchair, because it's safety, folks. You really want to keep those things in line, and you don't want to let it go out of fear or out of, I don't have energy for this, I can't deal with it. You can ask somebody to help you, to call the company or, get transportation, go down to the company, because sometimes, they take a long time to come to your home. They really do, because they're short-staffed most of the time, and they have a lot going on. So I just get myself on their calendar, and I go down there. So I've gone down there twice, once because of the wheels were something was weird, and of course all of them were loose. So so they tightened up and made sure that everything was safe. So, and they didn't charge me anything. The other day I went, something was squeaking, and I can't remember what else was wrong. I think the joystick, the little joystick piece was flipping off. So I would end up with it in my hand. It's like, oh, can't steer this puppy. So it's just little tiny things here and there that I needed for them to take a look at it, and they changed everything or tightened everything, and they did a check over. So it was like a once a year type look over on the chair, and they stated everything was really good. They worked on my joystick to make sure that the little tabby thing didn't keep on flying off on me. So, and so they did a good job. It wasn't a big deal. And they didn't charge me anything. It was parts that they had in the shop and no issue. So it's those kind of things that, can be very helpful for your state of mind and for the company, because they want you to enjoy the chair and make sure that things are working well for you, and for you to continue to work with them. So those are the recommendations for today. My biggest one was the magnet and my permanent markers. So, and my other tools. You don't have to get a very big toolkit. You really don't. I got one that was pretty huge. I don't know if it's way in the back there. But I got one that was pretty big. I don't know what I was thinking, but guys will be into this more than gals. But, us gals, we also have to be alert and ready to tighten anything that needs to be tightened, and make sure that the screws are tight and ready to go. So, and the magnet will get you out of some willy jillies. So those are my recommendations. I will post this link for Brownability. They write up some pretty good documents, and you can look at the details of some other documents that are further below on the page. So any questions or any ideas or any tricks that you do with your manual and power wheelchair, feel free to post it, because that might help someone else. All right, folks, that is it, and I'll see you in the next one.